They'll pay dearly for betraying me, Zaria Beaumont murmurs, her voice a quiet storm. A stunning black woman, she lounges on a plush sofa in her Buckhead mansion, Atlanta's morning light streaming through grand windows. The aroma of fresh coffee envelops her, a fleeting moment of peace. Her phone buzzes, a cryptic number flashing. Zaria opens the message, her heart seizing as images flood the screen. Her husband Quentin, kissing a white woman on a Bermuda beach. The text sneers, "He's been mine for 2 years." Zaria's grip tightens on her mug, eyes turning to steel. She saves the message, vowing revenge not with fists but with intellect. What devastating plan will she unleash? How far will her cunning go? Stay tuned to witness a black woman's unbreakable strength. Drop a comment with your city and subscribe for more. Zaria Beaumont's heart thundered in her chest, a storm brewing beneath her poised exterior. The sting of betrayal pulsed through her veins, sharper than any blade, as she sat motionless in the opulent living room of her Buckhead mansion. The photos from that unknown number still burned in her mind. Her husband Quentin, entwined with a white woman named Serafina on a Bermuda beach, their laughter a mockery of the life Zaria had built. She clutched her coffee mug, its warmth a fleeting anchor against the chaos threatening to engulf her. The Atlanta skyline glittered beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, a dazzling contrast to the darkness creeping into her soul. For 8 years she had poured her heart into this marriage, into Quentin, believing they were partners. Now each image was a shard of glass, slicing through the illusion. Zaria's breath hitched as she replayed the message in her head. "He's been mine for 2 years. 2 years." The words coiled around her like a serpent, squeezing tighter with every heartbeat. She had been the backbone of their life, her tech empire funding the mansion, the cars, the lavish dinners, where Quentin played the charming host. Yet while she built their future, he had been weaving a secret life with Serafina, a woman whose name now tasted like poison on Zaria's tongue. Her fingers trembled, not from weakness, but from a fury she fought to contain. She would not stoop to their level, would not let rage reduce her to petty outbursts. Zaria Beaumont was no scorned wife screaming into the void. She was a strategist, a black woman who had clawed her way to the top in a world that often tried to hold her down. The silence of the mansion was deafening, broken only by the soft hum of the city outside. Zaria set the mug down, her movements deliberate, as if anchoring herself to reason. She opened her phone again, forcing herself to study the photos, not to wallow, but to fuel her resolve. Quentin's smug grin, Serafina's possessive touch, the turquoise waves lapping at their feet. It was a betrayal staged in paradise, paid for with Zaria's hard-earned money. Her chest tightened, a mix of grief and indignation. She had trusted him, loved him, even when his investment seminars yielded nothing but excuses. 8 years of her life poured into a man who had traded her loyalty for sand and secrets. Zaria stood, pacing the polished hardwood floor, her reflection flickering in the glass walls. She thought of Cale, her 8-year-old son, his bright eyes and endless questions. How would she shield him from this? The thought of his innocent smile twisted her heart, but it also sharpened her focus. Kyle deserved a mother who fought, not with fists or tears, but with a mind honed like a blade. She wouldn't let Quentin's deceit destroy their son's world. Zaria's gaze landed on a framed photo from their wedding, her in a flowing gown, Quentin beaming beside her. The memory felt like a lie now, a cruel script she hadn't seen coming. She turned away, her resolve hardening like steel in a forge. Her phone buzzed again, another message from the unknown number. "Ask him about the villa in Charleston." Zaria's eyes narrowed, a spark igniting in her core. A villa? Another secret carved from her wealth? The audacity of it fueled her, transforming pain into purpose. She wouldn't confront Serafina. That woman was beneath her. Nor would she scream at Quentin, giving him the satisfaction of her unraveling. Instead, she would dismantle his world with the precision of a chess master. Each move calculated, each step deliberate. She saved the new message to her secure cloud, her fingers steady now, and deleted it from her phone. Evidence was her weapon, and she would wield it ruthlessly. Zaria crossed to her home office, a sanctuary of sleek mahogany and awards from her tech empire. She dialed Tariq, her cousin and a financial analyst in East Atlanta, her voice low but firm. "Quentin's betrayed me," she said, the words cutting like glass. Tariq's sharp intake of breath echoed through the line. "That parasite. What's the plan?" Zaria's lips curved into a faint, steely smile. "I don't touch filth. I'll handle this with my mind." She hung up, her decision made. Kyle would stay with Tariq for a few days. She needed space to act, to protect her son from the storm about to break. She sank into her leather chair, the weight of betrayal settling like a stone in her chest. Zaria closed her eyes, letting the pain wash over her, but only for a moment. She wasn't the girl who crumbled. She was the woman who built empires. Opening her laptop, she began drafting her first move. Quentin's prized cars, Lamborghini and Bentley, bought with her money, would be the first to go. She texted Khalil, a luxury car dealer in Dunwoody. "Sell Quentin's cars. Today." His reply was instant. "Both? You serious?" Zaria typed back, "Every last one." She then contacted Amara, a real estate mogul known for discreet sales. "Value the mansion? Off market now," Zaria instructed, her voice a calm command. Her heart pounded, not with fear but with a fierce clarity. Quentin had underestimated her, mistaking her love for weakness, her success for his entitlement. She thought of the investors he'd charmed at her galas, the lies he'd spun while she worked tirelessly. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was financial, a theft of her legacy. Zaria's fingers hovered over her phone, tempted to call him, to hear his excuses falter. But no, she would not give him that power. Instead, she opened a new bank account in her name alone, preparing to secure her and Kale's future. The pain still lingered, a dull ache beneath her resolve. But it was fuel now, driving her forward. As the Atlanta skyline shimmered outside, Zaria felt a shift within her. She wasn't just a wife betrayed, she was a force, a black woman who had faced doubters and won. Quentin and Serafina thought they could shatter her world, but they'd awakened a storm. She would not stoop to their level, would not let their filth taint her. With every click of her keyboard, every call she made, Zaria was rewriting her story, not as a victim, but as a victor. She leaned back, her eyes blazing with purpose. This was only the beginning, and Quentin would soon learn the cost of crossing her. Zaria Beaumont's heart burned with a quiet fury, the embers of betrayal fueling her every step. The sting of Quentin's infidelity still pulsed, but she channeled it into a steely resolve, pacing the hardwood floors of her Buckhead mansion. The Atlanta skyline shimmered beyond the windows, a distant reminder of the empire she'd built, a legacy now tainted by her husband's lies. She had vowed to protect Kyle, her 8-year-old son, from this storm, and that promise anchored her. No tears, no screams. Zaria would not let Quentin's deceit unravel her. She was a black woman who had faced doubters and won, and she would face this betrayal with the same unyielding strength. The mansion's silence was oppressive, amplifying the echoes of her thoughts. Zaria's mind replayed the images of Quentin with Serafina, their laughter a cruel taunt. But it was the cryptic message, "Ask him about the villa in Charleston," that gnawed at her. What else had Quentin hidden? Her pulse quickened, not with fear but with a fierce need to know. She wouldn't confront him yet. That would give him power, a chance to spin more lies. Instead, she would dig, uncover every secret he thought he'd buried. Her fingers curled, nails biting into her palms, as she moved toward Quentin's study, a space she rarely entered, a shrine to his hollow ambitions. The study smelled of leather and pretense, lined with books he never read and awards he hadn't earned. Zaria's gaze swept over the desk, cluttered with papers and empty promises. Her heart ached, a fleeting pang for the man she'd once loved, but she shoved it aside. She was done mourning illusions. A small safe sat in the corner, its presence almost mocking. Zaria's lips tightened as she punched in Kale's birthday, a code Quentin had once called their lucky number. The lock clicked open, revealing a USB drive nestled among receipts and a flask of bourbon. Her breath caught, a mix of dread and anticipation swirling in her chest. Zarya plugged the USB into her laptop, her hands steady despite the storm within. Files flooded the screen, emails, bank records, a digital trail of Quentin's duplicity. Her eyes scanned the correspondence, each word a fresh wound. Messages to Serafina, detailed trips to Bermuda and Barbados, paid with Zarya's money. One email read, "I'll leave her after this deal closes. Be patient." The audacity twisted her gut, but worse was the financial betrayal. Quentin had siphoned $200,000 from her accounts, funneling it into gifts for Serafina, jewelry, flights, spa retreats, her money, her sweat, her sacrifices, all stolen to fund his mistress's fantasies. But the USB held darker secrets. Quentin had used Zarya's company name to pitch fake investment schemes, swindling Atlanta's elite with promises of phantom projects. Her breath hitched, fury mingling with disbelief. He hadn't just betrayed her heart, he'd weaponized her reputation, her legacy as a black woman who'd built an empire against the odds. The weight of it pressed against her chest, threatening to crack her composure. Zarya closed her eyes, forcing herself to breathe. She was not the naive wife he'd assumed. She was a force, a strategist, and she would make him pay, not with fists, but with the precision of her mind. She stood, pacing the study, her reflection flickering in a framed photo of their family. Cale's bright smile pierced her, a reminder of what was at stake. She imagined his confusion, his small voice asking why his father was gone. The thought was a dagger, but it sharpened her resolve. Zarya would shield Kyle, give him a future untainted by Quentin's lies. Her fingers trembled as she copied the USB files to her secure cloud, each click a step toward justice. She wouldn't let Quentin's betrayal define her. She was a black woman who had faced boardrooms and biases, and she would face this with the same unbreakable spirit. Zarya's phone buzzed, Tariq's name flashing. "You okay?" he asked, his voice thick with concern. "I'm not okay," she admitted, her tone low but firm. "But I'm in control. Send Cale's favorite books to your place. He's staying longer." Tariq didn't question her, his silence a nod to her strength. Hanging up, Zarya felt a surge of clarity. She wouldn't let Quentin's filth pull her into chaos. She would dismantle his world, piece by piece, starting with the symbols of his ego. Her fingers flew across her laptop, drafting a plan. The cars, Lamborghini and Bentley, bought with her wealth, were already in motion, thanks to Khalil. But the mansion, their glittering facade, would follow. She texted Amara, her real estate contact, "Push the valuation. I want it sold fast." Her heart pounded, not with doubt, but with purpose. Quentin had mistaken her trust for weakness, her love for blindness. Now he would face the consequences of crossing a woman who built empires. Zarya leaned back, her gaze drifting to the Atlanta skyline. The city had seen her rise, a black woman defying odds in a world that often tried to dim her light. Quentin's betrayal was a wound, but it was also a catalyst. She thought of her mother, a woman who taught her to stand tall, to fight with wit, not rage. "Never let them see you break," her mother's voice echoed. Zarya wouldn't break. She would rebuild, for herself, for Kyle, for every black woman who'd been underestimated. The pain in her chest softened, replaced by a fierce determination. Quentin and Serafina thought they'd shattered her, but they'd only awakened her power. She closed her laptop, her eyes blazing with resolve. The USB was her arsenal, its secrets her ammunition. Quentin's lies would be his undoing, and Zarya would orchestrate it with the elegance of a maestro. She stood, her silhouette strong against the city's glow, a black woman ready to reclaim her legacy. The game had just begun, and she was playing to win. Zarya Beaumont's heart pulsed with a fierce resolve, the fire of betrayal now a controlled blaze guiding her every move. The USB's secrets, Quentin's infidelity, his theft of her wealth, his audacious scams, had peeled back the final layers of her trust, leaving only a steely determination. The Atlanta skyline glowed beyond her Buckhead mansion's windows, a testament to the empire she'd built, now threatened by a man she'd once called her partner. Zarya stood in her office, the weight of Quentin's deceit heavy, but not crushing. She was a black woman who had faced boardrooms and biases, and she would face this with the same unyielding strength. Her son Kyle was her anchor, his innocent smile a beacon she'd protect at all costs. The silence of the mansion was a stark contrast to the storm within her. Zarya's fingers hovered over her laptop, her mind racing not with rage but with precision. Quentin had mistaken her love for weakness, her success for his entitlement. He'd learned the cost of that miscalculation. She wouldn't scream or confront Serafina. That was beneath her. Instead, she'd dismantle Quentin's world with the elegance of a strategist, each step a calculated strike. Her chest tightened at the thought of Kale, safe at Tariq's but unaware of the fracture in their family. The pain of shielding him from this truth was a quiet ache, but it fueled her purpose. She would not let Quentin's lies steal her son's future. Zarya opened her banking app, her movements deliberate, like a general preparing for battle. She transferred $100,000 from her personal account to a new one in her name alone, a fortress to secure her and Kale's stability. Her heart thudded, not with fear but with a thrill of reclaiming control. She called her bank, voice steady as she reported suspected fraud on Quentin's credit cards, effectively locking him out. The representative hesitated, sensing the gravity, but Zarya's calm authority left no room for doubt. "It's my account," she said, her tone a velvet blade. "Freeze them now." The click of confirmation was a small victory, a spark of justice igniting within her. Her phone buzzed. Khalil, the luxury car dealer in Dunwoody. "Cars are lined up for sale," he texted. "Buyers are ready. You sure about this?" Zarya's lips curved into a faint, resolute smile. "Sell them, every last one," she replied. Quentin's prized Lamborghini and Bentley, bought with her money, were symbols of his ego, not his effort. Selling them wasn't just revenge. It was reclaiming what was hers. Her heart twinged briefly, remembering Quentin's pride as he polished those cars, but the memory soured. He'd used her wealth to fund his betrayal, and she'd strip him of that privilege. Khalil texted back, "Done. $500,000 wired by tonight." Zarya exhaled, a rush of empowerment washing over her. She was taking back her power, one move at a time. Next, she dialed Amara, a real estate mogul known for discreet, high-stakes sales. "Value the mansion off-market," Zarya instructed, her voice unwavering. "I need it fast." Amara's reply was swift. $4.8 million. Cash buyer ready. Needs Quentin's signature. Zarya's jaw tightened. That signature would be a hurdle, but she'd clear it with the same precision. The mansion, her dream-turned prison, was another piece of Quentin's facade she'd tear down. Her heart ached for the memories made here. Kale's first steps, laughter-filled dinners, but they were tainted now. She wouldn't cling to a lie. Selling it was liberation, a step toward a future she'd define. Zarya's thoughts drifted to Kale, his curious eyes and endless questions. How would she explain this to him? The ache in her chest deepened, but she pushed it aside, replacing it with a mother's fierce protectiveness. She texted Tariq, "Send Kale's soccer gear to your place. He'll need it." Tariq replied, "Got it. You holding up?" Zarya typed back, "I'm not just holding up. I'm fighting." Her fingers lingered on the screen, a flicker of vulnerability surfacing. She wasn't just fighting for herself, but for every black woman who'd been underestimated, for Cal's right to a life unmarred by his father's deceit. She paced the office, the Atlanta skyline a silent witness to her resolve. Zarya's mind churned with the USB's revelations, Quentin's scams, his theft, his betrayal with Serafina. The pain was a raw wound, but it sharpened her focus. She wasn't the naive wife he'd assumed. She was a force, a black woman who'd built an empire in a world that often tried to dim her light. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. "Never let them see you break." Zarya wouldn't break. She'd rebuild, stronger, wiser, untouchable. Her phone buzzed again, a new message from Imani, her lawyer. "Quentin's team is sniffing around. Be ready for a fight if you sell before a court order." Zarya's heart skipped, a flicker of doubt piercing her armor. Selling the cars and mansion was a gamble. Quentin could claim she'd sabotaged their assets, but the risk ignited her defiance. "He stole my trust, my money," she murmured, her voice a quiet vow. "I'll take the risk to protect Kyle." She instructed Imani to prepare legal documents proving the assets were hers, a shield against any counterattack. Her pulse steadied, the thrill of strategy overtaking fear. Zaria leaned against the desk, her gaze drifting to a photo of her and Kale at a community tech fair. His proud grin, holding a robot she'd helped him build, warmed her heart. That was her why. Kyle's future, her legacy. Quentin had thought he could exploit her, but he'd underestimated a black woman's resilience. She opened her laptop, drafting a plan to channel the car sale proceeds into a tech center for black youth in Atlanta, a seed of hope amidst the wreckage. The pain of betrayal lingered, but it was fuel now, driving her to reclaim her power. As the city's lights twinkled outside, Zaria felt a shift within her. She wasn't just surviving Quentin's lies. She was rewriting her story. The cars were gone, the mansion next, and soon Quentin would face the full weight of her intellect. She stood tall, a black woman unbroken, her heart a fortress of resolve. This was her first strike, and it was only the beginning. Zaria Beaumont's heart thrummed with a quiet triumph, the first sparks of justice flickering within her. The moves she'd made, locking Quentin's cards, selling his precious cars, setting the mansion sale in motion, had shifted the ground beneath her betrayer's feet. Atlanta's skyline shimmered beyond her office window, a silent witness to her resolve. She sat at her desk, the weight of Quentin's deceit still heavy, but no longer paralyzing. Her son Kyle, safe with her cousin Tariq, was her North Star, guiding every decision. Zaria's chest swelled with a fierce protectiveness, her love for him a shield against the pain of Quentin's lies. She wouldn't let his betrayal dim her light or Kale's future. As a black woman who'd built an empire against the odds, she would fight with intellect, not rage, her every action a testament to her unbreakable spirit. Far across the ocean, in Bermuda's turquoise glow, Quentin and Serafina lounged at a cliffside restaurant, oblivious to the storm Zaria had unleashed. The air was thick with salt and luxury, the clink of glasses punctuating their laughter. Quentin raised a cocktail, his charm masking the hollowness beneath. Serafina leaned closer, her eyes gleaming with the promise of a life funded by Zaria's wealth. But as the waiter presented the bill, Quentin slid his credit card across the table, confident in its power. The waiter returned, his face tight. "Sir, your card's been declined." Quentin's smile faltered, a crack in his facade. "Try it again," he said, voice sharp. The card failed once more, and Serafina's gaze turned cold, her fingers tapping impatiently. Quentin's heart raced, a flicker of panic igniting. He tried another card, Zaria's card, only to face the same rejection. The waiter's stare grew insistent, and the restaurant's hum seemed to mock him. Quentin's throat tightened, his charm crumbling under the weight of humiliation. "There's a mistake," he stammered, fumbling for his phone. Serafina's voice cut through, sharp and accusing. "You said this was handled, Quentin. Fix it." Her words were a lash, stripping away his bravado. The other diners glanced over, their whispers a growing chorus. Quentin dialed Zaria, his hands trembling, desperation clawing at his chest. "Zaria, the cards aren't working. Help me," he pleaded into the voicemail, his voice a raw edge of fear. In Atlanta, Zaria's phone buzzed on her desk, his name flashing. Her lips curved into a faint, icy smile. She let it ring, each unanswered tone a deliberate strike. She wouldn't stoop to his level, wouldn't engage in his chaos. Her silence was her power, a blade sharper than any shout. Back in Bermuda, the hotel delivered the final blow. The concierge, polite but firm, informed Quentin that his suite payment had failed. "We need a valid card, sir," the man said, his tone unyielding. Serafina's face flushed with anger, her dream of paradise unraveling. "You told me you had this under control," she hissed, her voice low but venomous. Quentin's stomach churned, the weight of his lies crashing down. He'd built this fantasy on Zaria's money, and now it was collapsing, exposing him as a fraud. The concierge hovered, demanding payment, and Serafina's glare burned into him. "Figure it out, or I'm done," she snapped, storming off to the lobby. Quentin's chest tightened, his world shrinking to the humiliation of this moment. He dialed Zaria again, his pleas more frantic, but her silence answered louder than words. In Atlanta, Zaria stood by her office window, the city's pulse echoing her own. The voicemails piled up, Quentin's desperation a distant hum she refused to heed. Her heart, though scarred, thrummed with a strange exhilaration. She wasn't just punishing Quentin, she was reclaiming her power piece by piece. The $500,000 from the car sales sat in her new account, a portion already allocated to a tech center for Black youth in Atlanta, a dream born from her pain. Her chest swelled with pride, tempered by a quiet ache for Cale. She imagined his small face, his questions about his father's absence. The thought was a knife, but it sharpened her resolve. She would build a future where Cale could thrive, untainted by Quentin's deceit. Her phone buzzed again. Not Quentin, but a new message from the unknown number. Serafina. A photo of her and Quentin at a tiki bar, her arm draped over him, with a taunt. "He's done with you. Move on." Zaria's jaw clenched, a flicker of anger sparking, but she smothered it. She wouldn't take Serafina's bait, wouldn't lower herself to that drama. She saved the message to her cloud, another piece of ammunition for her arsenal. Her heart steadied, the pain of betrayal now a fuel for her strategy. She wasn't fighting for revenge alone, but for justice, for Cale, for every Black woman who'd been underestimated. Zaria returned to her desk, her fingers flying across her laptop as she checked on the mansion sale. Amara's latest message confirmed a cash buyer, ready to close fast. Her pulse quickened, not with fear, but with purpose. Quentin's world was unraveling, and she was the architect of its collapse. She texted Tariq, "Cale okay?" His reply was swift. "He's good. Asking for you." Zaria's heart softened, a wave of love for her son washing over her. She called him, her voice warm but steady. "Hey, champ," she said, hearing his giggle. "Mom, when are you coming?" Kyle asked, a hint of worry in his tone. "Soon, baby," she promised. "We're building something amazing together." The call ended, and Zaria's resolve hardened. She wouldn't let Quentin's lies steal Cale's joy. As Atlanta's lights twinkled outside, Zaria felt a shift within her. The pain of betrayal was still there, a dull ache, but it was dwarfed by her strength. She was a Black woman who'd faced a world that tried to dim her light, and she'd emerged brighter. Quentin and Serafina thought they could break her, but they'd only ignited her power. She leaned back, her eyes blazing with determination. The cards were locked, the cars gone, and the mansion next. Quentin's reckoning was coming, and Zaria would deliver it with the elegance of a queen. Zaria Beaumont stood like a pillar of steel in the heart of her Buckhead mansion, her heart a furnace of resolve tempered by the ashes of betrayal. The echo of Quentin's frantic voicemails from Bermuda lingered in her mind, but she felt no pity, only a fierce satisfaction that her first strikes had hit their mark. The cars were gone, the cards frozen, and the mansion sale loomed. Atlanta's skyline glowed beyond the glass walls, a reminder of the empire she'd built, now a battleground for her justice. Her son, Kyle, safe with Tariq, was the pulse of her purpose, his innocent questions about his father's absence, a quiet ache she carried. Zaria's chest swelled with a mother's love, a force stronger than Quentin's lies. She would not falter, not now, not when her plan was unfolding with the precision of a master strategist. The mansion's silence was shattered by the slam of the front door. Quentin stormed in, his face a mask of desperation, his usual charm eroded by the Bermuda debacle. Zaria's heart thudded, not with fear, but with anticipation. As she positioned herself by the ebony dining table, the USB clutched in her hand like a loaded weapon. Her eyes, sharp and unyielding, met his as he strode forward, his voice a strained bark. "What the hell have you done, Zaria?" he demanded, his hands clenched, his composure fraying. The air crackled with tension, the weight of his betrayal a tangible force between them. Zaria's lips curved into a faint, controlled smile, her calm a stark contrast to his unraveling. She wouldn't stoop to his chaos, wouldn't let his filth taint her dignity. "Explain, Serafina," Zaria said, her voice a blade of ice, cutting through his bluster. She slid her phone across the table, the screen blazing with images of him and his mistress on Bermuda's shores. Quentin's eyes widened, a flicker of panic crossing his face. "This isn't what it looks like," he stammered, his charm faltering like a cracked facade. Zaria's heart twisted, a fleeting pang for the man she'd once loved, but it was swiftly buried under a tide of indignation. "Don't," she cut him off, her tone steady but lethal. I know about the Charleston villa, the $200,000 you stole, the scams you ran in my name. Each word was a hammer, striking at the lies he'd built their life upon. Quentin's face flushed, a mix of guilt and defiance. You're blowing this out of proportion, he snapped, stepping closer, his voice rising. It was just a fling, Zarya. You can't destroy everything over this. Her chest tightened, fury bubbling beneath her calm exterior. He thought he could dismiss her pain, her labor, her legacy as a black woman who'd fought for every inch of her success. Destroy? She echoed, her voice low, dangerous. You stole my money, my trust, my name. The cars are gone. The cards are locked. The mansion's on the market. I've filed for divorce. Get out. Her words were a guillotine, slicing through his excuses with surgical precision. Quentin's eyes bulged, his hands trembling as the reality sank in. Those were my car, he roared, slamming a fist on the table. Zarya didn't flinch, her gaze unwavering, a black woman who'd faced worse storms than his tantrum. My money, she corrected, her voice a quiet thunder. You leeched off me for 8 years, Quentin. You don't get to play victim. Her heart pounded, a mix of anger and empowerment. She wasn't just reclaiming her assets. She was reclaiming her worth, her identity as a woman who'd built an empire against the odds. Quentin's face crumpled, his bravado dissolving into desperation. You can't do this, he pleaded, his voice cracking. I'll sue you for everything. Zarya's smile was cold, unyielding. Try it, she said, holding up the USB. This has your scams, your lies. The world will know who you really are. Her heart surged with a fierce pride, tempered by the ache of Cale's absence. She thought of his small, trusting face, his questions about his father's whereabouts. The pain of shielding him was a weight, but it fueled her resolve. She wouldn't let Quentin's deceit touch her son. Get out, she repeated, her voice a final command. Quentin stared, his shoulders slumping, then stormed out, the door slamming behind him. The silence that followed was heavy, but Zarya felt lighter, as if she'd shed the burden of his lies. Her phone buzzed. Imani, her lawyer. Quentin's team is furious about the cars and cards, Imani said, her tone urgent. They're pushing for a hearing tomorrow. If they prove you acted to sabotage, you could face penalties. Zarya's heart skipped, a flicker of doubt piercing her armor. The risk was real, but so was her determination. He stole my life, she murmured, her voice steady. I'm protecting Cale's future. She instructed Imani to prepare documents proving the assets were hers, a shield against Quentin's threats. Her pulse steadied, the thrill of strategy overtaking fear. Zarya crossed to the window, the Atlanta skyline a canvas of her resilience. She thought of Cale, safe with Tariq, his laughter a distant melody in her mind. She called him, her voice softening. Hey, champ, she said, hearing his giggle. Mom, when are you coming? Kyle asked, a hint of worry in his tone. Soon, baby, she promised, her heart swelling. We're building something amazing. The call ended and Zarya's resolve hardened. She wasn't just fighting Quentin. She was fighting for every black woman who'd been underestimated, for Cale's right to a life free of his father's shadow. Her thoughts turned to the tech center she'd begun funding with the car sale proceeds, a beacon for black youth in Atlanta. The idea sparked a warmth in her chest, a counterpoint to the pain of betrayal. Quentin had thought he could break her, but he'd only ignited her power. Zarya stood tall, her silhouette strong against the city's glow, a black woman unbroken. The confrontation had been her first stand, but it wouldn't be her last. Quentin's reckoning was coming, and she would deliver it with the elegance of a queen. Zarya Beaumont stood resolute, her heart a fortress of defiance as she prepared to face the legal storm Quentin had unleashed. The echo of his threats, "You'll regret this," still rang in her ears, but they only sharpened her focus. Atlanta's skyline glimmered beyond the mansion's windows, a testament to the empire she'd built. Now a battleground for her justice. The confrontation had left her unbowed, her resolve as a black woman forged in the fires of betrayal. Kyle, her 8-year-old son, remained her guiding star, his innocent questions about his father's absence a quiet ache she carried. Her chest swelled with a mother's fierce love, a force stronger than Quentin's lies. She would protect her son's future, not with rage, but with the precision of a strategist. Her every move a testament to her unbreakable spirit. The Atlanta courthouse loomed like a monolith of glass and steel, its cold facade mirroring the tension in Zaria's heart. She stepped inside, her heels clicking with purpose, her lawyer, Imani, at her side. The weight of Quentin's betrayal, his infidelity, his theft, his scams pressed against her. But she stood tall, a black woman who had faced doubters and won. Her pulse quickened, not with fear but with anticipation. This was her arena now, and she would fight with the elegance of a queen. Quentin sat across the courtroom, his face a mask of defiance. But Zaria saw the cracks, his eyes darting, his hands fidgeting. Her heart thrummed with a fierce satisfaction. He'd underestimated her, and today he'd pay the price. The judge, a sharp-eyed woman with a no-nonsense air, called the session to order. Quentin's lawyer, a slick man in a tailored suit, launched his attack, his voice dripping with accusation. Ms. Beaumont acted vindictively, selling marital assets and freezing accounts without court approval, he declared, painting Zaria as a scorned wife bent on destruction. Her chest tightened, a flicker of indignation sparking. How dare they twist her justice into vengeance? She wasn't the one who'd stolen $200,000, who'd spun lies with Serafina, who'd used her name to scam investors. But she kept her composure, her face a serene mask, refusing to let their narrative define her. Imani rose, her voice a steady blade cutting through the accusations. My client acted to protect her assets, she said, presenting the USB's damning evidence. Emails detailing Quentin's affair, bank records of his $200,000 theft, and proof of his fraudulent investment schemes under Zaria's company name. Zaria's heart pounded, a mix of pride and pain. The USB was her sword, exposing Quentin's lies to the world. Imani's words rang out. Every asset, cars, accounts, mansion, was funded by Ms. Beaumont's wealth. Quentin has no claim. The courtroom buzzed, and Zaria felt a surge of empowerment. She wasn't just defending herself, she was reclaiming her legacy as a black woman who'd built an empire against the odds. Quentin's lawyer faltered, his arguments crumbling under Imani's onslaught. The judge's eyes narrowed, her gaze piercing Quentin. The evidence is clear, she declared. No court order was violated. The cars and accounts are Ms. Beaumont's. The proceeds are frozen assets. Zaria's heart soared, a wave of triumph washing over her. She'd won, not just a legal battle but a moral one. Quentin's face crumpled, his defiance dissolving into desperation. Her victory was a beacon, a testament to her strength, but it was tempered by the ache for Kyle. She imagined his small face, his worry about their future, and her resolve hardened. This was for him, for their new beginning. But Zaria wasn't done. She needed Quentin's signature to sell the mansion, and she knew he'd resist. Her fingers itched with purpose as she opened her phone, drafting a tweet from an anonymous account. Atlanta broker Quentin scams investors with fake projects. She posted it, watching it spread like wildfire across Twitter. Her heart raced, a thrill of power coursing through her. She texted Quentin from a burner number. Sign the mansion sale, or this tweet stays live, and your investors see the truth. Her chest swelled with a fierce clarity. She wasn't just punishing him, she was exposing him, stripping away his facade with the precision of a master strategist. Quentin's response came swiftly, a panicked voicemail. Zaria, take it down, I'll sign, just stop. Her lips curved into a faint, icy smile. She didn't reply, letting his fear simmer. Her heart, though scarred by betrayal, thrummed with a strange exhilaration. She was rewriting her story, not as a victim, but as a victor. She forwarded the USB's data to the IRS, her final strike in this chapter. The move wasn't just revenge, it was justice, ensuring Quentin faced the consequences of his scams. Her pulse steadied, the weight of betrayal lifting as she took control. Zaria stepped out of the courthouse, the Atlanta air warm against her skin. She thought of Kale, safe with Tariq, his laughter a distant melody in her mind. She called him, her voice softening. Hey, champ, she said, hearing his giggle. Mom, are we okay? Kyle asked, a hint of fear in his tone. We're more than okay, she promised, her heart swelling. We're building something unstoppable. The call ended, and Zaria's resolve hardened. She wasn't just fighting for herself, but for every black woman who'd been underestimated, for Kale's right to a life free of his father's shadow. Her phone buzzed. Imani. Quentin's team is scrambling. The IRS report has them rattled. You've got him cornered. Zaria's heart surged with pride, tempered by the ache of Kale's absence. She imagined his curious eyes, his questions about his father. The pain of shielding him was a quiet wound, but it fueled her purpose. She wasn't just dismantling Quentin's world. She was building a legacy for her son, for Atlanta's black youth. The $500,000 from the car sales, now fueling her tech center, was a seed of hope amidst the wreckage. Zaria stood tall, her silhouette strong against the city's glow, a black woman unbroken. The courtroom was her triumph, but the war wasn't over. Quentin's signature was next, and she would secure it with the elegance of a queen. Zaria Beaumont's heart thrummed with a quiet triumph, the courtroom victory a blazing beacon in her fight for justice. Quentin's signature on the mansion sale, coerced by her strategic Twitter post and the IRS investigation she'd sparked, were not just blows against his deceit, they were steps toward reclaiming her power. Atlanta's skyline shimmered beyond her office window, a canvas of her resilience. But her thoughts were with Kyle, her 8-year-old son, whose innocent questions anchored her resolve. The pain of Quentin's betrayal lingered, a dull ache in her chest, but it was overshadowed by a fierce pride. As a black woman who'd built an empire against relentless odds, Zaria would not let his lies dim her light. She was forging a new path, one that would shine for Kale and her community, with the elegance of a queen. The mansion, once a symbol of their shared dreams, was now under contract, its $5 million sale a final severing of Quentin's hold. Zaria had allocated $1 million of the car sale proceeds to launch a tech center for black youth in Atlanta, a dream born from her pain, but rooted in hope. Her heart swelled with purpose as she stood in a rented loft in Midtown, the future site of her community project. The space buzzed with potential, bare walls waiting to cradle dreams, just as she'd cradled Kale's hopes. She envisioned young black coders, like her son, finding their spark here, free from the barriers she'd faced. The thought warmed her, a counterpoint to the betrayal's sting, but it also brought a pang of worry. How would Kale navigate this fractured world she was shielding him from? Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. Tarek's voice was warm but urgent. Kyle's asking about his dad again. He's okay, but he's confused. Zaria's chest tightened, a mother's love clashing with the weight of her choices. I'm coming, she said, her voice steady but laced with tenderness. She drove to Tariq's East Atlanta home, her heart a tangle of resolve and guilt. Cal ran to her, his small arms wrapping around her waist. Mom, why isn't Dad home? He asked, his eyes wide with worry. Zaria knelt, her heart aching as she met his gaze. Your dad made some wrong choices, champ, she said softly. But we're building something new, just you and me, stronger than ever. Kyle's lip trembled, a flicker of anger crossing his face. He lied to us, didn't he? Zaria nodded, her throat tight. But we're enough, always will be. Her words were a vow, her love a shield against the pain. Kyle's hug lingered, and Zaria's heart swelled with a fierce protectiveness. She wouldn't let Quentin's deceit scar her son. Back at the loft, she met with contractors, her vision for the tech center taking shape. The $1 million was a seed, funding coding classes, mentorship programs, and scholarships for black youth. Her chest glowed with pride, a testament to her strength as a black woman who turned betrayal into opportunity. She organized a pre-launch event, inviting Atlanta's black community leaders, educators, entrepreneurs, activists to share her dream. The room buzzed with their voices, their support a chorus of hope. Zaria stood at the podium, her voice steady but resonant. This center is for our kids, she said, for every black child who deserves a chance to shine. Applause erupted and her heart soared, the pain of Quentin's lies fading against this new purpose. Her phone buzzed again, a voicemail from Quentin, his voice raw. Zaria, I messed up. I'm sorry. Can we talk? Her fingers hovered, a flicker of old love stirring, but she smothered it. He'd stolen her trust, her money, her name. His regret was too late, a hollow echo against her resolve. She deleted the message, her heart steady, refusing to let his desperation sway her. She was a black woman who'd faced doubters and won, and she wouldn't falter now. Her silence was her power, a blade sharper than any confrontation. Then a new message arrived, from Serafina, the unknown number that had sparked this war. Zaria's pulse quickened, a spark of anger flaring, but she opened it with the calm of a strategist. "I was wrong to send those photos," Serafina wrote. "Quentin promised me a life like yours, but he lied to me too. Your strength humbles me." Zaria's jaw clenched, a mix of disdain and indifference washing over her. Serafina's words were no olive branch. They were the confession of a woman who'd played a losing game. Zaria had no need for her remorse. She was beyond their drama. She deleted the message, her heart untouched, her focus on the future she was building. As she walked through the loft, envisioning rows of computers and eager young faces, Zaria felt a shift within her. The betrayal was a wound, but it had birthed a vision. She thought of her mother, a woman who taught her to stand tall, to fight with wit, not rage. "Never let them see you break," her mother's voice echoed. Zaria wouldn't break. She was planting seeds for a legacy that would outshine Quentin's lies, a testament to her strength as a black woman. Her heart ached for Cale, but it also burned with hope. She called him, her voice warm. "Hey, champ," she said, hearing his giggle. "Mom, are we going to be okay?" he asked, a hint of fear lingering. "We're unstoppable," she promised, her heart swelling. "We're building something amazing." The Atlanta skyline twinkled outside, a mirror to Zaria's resolve. She stood tall, her silhouette a beacon of resilience. The tech center was her first step toward a new legacy, one that would lift her community and her son. Quentin's betrayal had tried to dim her light, but it had only ignited her power. She was a black woman unbroken, her heart a fortress of purpose. The fight wasn't over, but Zaria was ready, her every move a testament to her unyielding spirit. Zaria Beaumont's heart glowed with a fierce, quiet pride, the seeds of her tech center now blossoming into a legacy that outshone Quentin's betrayal. The courtroom triumph, the Twitter storm, and the IRS investigation had dismantled his world. But it was her vision for Atlanta's black youth that defined her victory. The city's skyline faded behind her as she drove toward Stone Mountain, a new chapter unfolding in the outer embrace of Atlanta's suburbs. Her son, Cale, was her anchor, his trust a beacon through the storm of Quentin's lies. Zaria's chest swelled with a mother's love, tempered by the lingering ache of shielding him from his father's failures. As a black woman who'd built an empire against relentless odds, she stood unbroken, her every step a testament to her unyielding spirit. The loft in Stone Mountain was a haven of light and warmth, its open spaces filled with Cale's laughter and sketches. Zaria had traded the Buckhead Mansion's grandeur for the simpler sanctuary, a deliberate choice to root her life in authenticity. Her heart thrummed with a bittersweet joy as she unpacked boxes, each one a symbol of freedom from Quentin's deceit. The $5 million from the mansion sale was secured, but Zaria had relinquished most of it to gain full custody of Cale, a price she'd paid without hesitation. Her chest tightened at the thought of Cale's small face, his questions about his father now softer but still piercing. She'd fought not just for herself but for him, for a future untainted by lies. Zaria stood on the loft's rooftop, the Stone Mountain horizon a canvas of possibility. Her tech company had landed a $3.5 million contract with a global retailer, a victory that felt like a crown on her resilience. Her heart soared, pride mingling with the quiet ache of her journey. The tech center, funded by the car sales and her own resources, was now a reality. Its doors opened to black youth eager to code and dream. She'd hosted a grand opening, standing alongside Atlanta's black leaders, educators, activists, entrepreneurs, who'd lauded her vision. The memory of their applause warmed her, a counterpoint to the cold betrayal she'd endured. But it was Cale's pride, his wide-eyed awe at the center's computers, that lit her soul. "Mom, you made this?" he'd asked, his voice a melody of wonder. Her heart had swelled, a mother's love drowning out the pain of Quentin's absence. Kale's sketches now adorned the loft's walls, each one a testament to his resilience. Zaria knelt beside him as he drew, her heart aching with love and guilt. "Mom, are we really okay without Dad?" he asked, his pencil pausing, eyes searching hers. The question was a dagger, slicing through her calm. "We're more than okay, champ," she said, her voice steady but tender. "We're unstoppable. You and me, building our own world." Kale's lip trembled, a flicker of anger lingering. "He lied to us," he muttered, his small hands gripping the pencil. Zaria pulled him close, her heart breaking, yet resolute. "He did," she admitted, "but we're stronger than his lies. We're building something real." Cal nodded, his trust in her a balm to her wounds. Her phone buzzed, a message from Quentin, his voice a broken shadow in a voicemail. "Zaria, I'm sorry. I lost everything. Can we talk?" Her fingers hovered, a fleeting pang of old love stirring, but she crushed it. Quentin's regret was a hollow echo, too late to mend the wreckage he'd caused. Her heart steadied, unswayed by his desperation. She deleted the message, her silence a final verdict. She was a black woman who'd faced doubters and won, and she wouldn't falter now. Her victory wasn't in his pain but in her rise, in the legacy she was crafting for Kale and her community. Zaria stepped back onto the rooftop, the night air cool against her skin. She thought of her mother, a woman who'd taught her to stand tall, to fight with wit, not rage. "Never let them see you break," her mother's voice echoed. Zaria hadn't broken. She'd built a tech center, a home, a future. Her heart glowed with pride, tempered by the ache of Kale's questions. She'd shielded him from Quentin's filth, but the weight of his absence lingered. She called him to the rooftop, her voice warm. "Hey, champ," she said, ruffling his hair. Kale grinned, holding up a sketch of her as a superhero. "You're my hero, Mom," he said, his eyes bright with trust. Her heart swelled, tears pricking but unshed. "And you're mine," she whispered, pulling him close. The Stone Mountain stars glittered above, a mirror to Zaria's resilience. She'd traded wealth for freedom, choosing full custody over Quentin's tainted assets. Her tech center was a beacon, its coding classes buzzing with young black dreamers. Atlanta's press had called her a trailblazer, a black woman redefining success. Her heart thrummed with a fierce joy, the pain of betrayal now a distant shadow. She thought of Serafina's apology, deleted without a second thought. Zaria needed no validation from those who tried to dim her light. She was a force, a black woman who'd turned pain into power. As Kale sketched beside her, Zaria's thoughts drifted to the future. She taught him resilience, the same strength her mother had instilled in her. "Mom, can we get a cat?" Kyle asked, his grin infectious. "Deal," Zaria laughed, her heart light. The loft, the tech center, her empire. They were hers, built on her terms. Quentin's lies had tried to break her, but they'd only forged her stronger. She stood tall, her silhouette a beacon against the night sky, a black woman unbroken. Her victory was complete, not in revenge but in the life she'd crafted, a legacy for Kyle and Atlanta's youth. Zaria Beaumont's story is a testament to unbreakable strength, a black woman's triumph over betrayal through intellect and grace. From the ashes of Quentin's lies, she built an empire of hope for her son, Kale, and Atlanta's youth. What did you feel as Zaria rose above the pain? Share your thoughts in the comments. Did her resilience inspire you, or did Quentin's downfall hit hard? Your voice matters. Thank you for joining us on this journey of courage and justice. Hit subscribe, tap the bell, and come back for more stories that ignite the soul. Until next time, stay strong, stay unstoppable,